Hello, Facebook Live. Oh, I'm singing. I must be like, I'm ready to go. I'm happy. It's not. Hey, Facebook Live. It's Lindsay Price here. I'm resident playwright for Theater Folk, the drama teacher resource company. It is January. You are looking for plays. You are like, I need something for my folks, my group, my teens, this upcoming spring. How about a classical adaptation? You know, it's time to get into the meat of things, right? The fall was the fall. The winter is here. Now is the winter of our discontent. It is time to get classical. What are your favorite classical adaptations? Add them in the comments. Let's make this a great resource for anyone who's looking for classical adaptations. Any classical adaptations that you have used, that you have had success with in your classrooms, in your drama clubs. What are the classical adaptations or the adaptations that have worked for you? I won't lie. Classical adaptation in general is my favorite form. It is my favorite thing to write. I'm very excited because my winter, I will be, speaking of winter of discontent, I will be working on a adaptation of Richard III, specifically for high schools. I just thought I'd let that sit for a sec. High school Richard III, all the death, all the ambition, all the blood, all the things that make Richard III. That is my goal for 2017, is to have a version of Richard III which can be done at the high school level and also maintains the intention and the integrity of the original. That's my challenge. That's my New Year's resolution for 2017 is to write an adaptation of Richard III. I just think that it is a wonderful challenge to take something in one form and determine the essential question: what will make this a theatrical experience? What makes a square peg fit into a round hole? The thing that is, particularly when you're working with novels or when you're working with things that aren't already in a theatrical form, I have a leg up. Richard III is already in a theatrical form, so that is one step ahead. But there are a lot of adaptations out there which they start in other forms. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, for example, I've done that as an adaptation. And I think that the trap that many get into is trying to keep the intention of the form as opposed to the intention of the story. And those are two completely different things. What I mean by that is a lot of times you see theatrical adaptations of material in other forms and they're narrators, right? That the plays are telling a story as opposed to showing a story. A book is not a play. A poem is not a play. And there has to be some kind of theatricality that has to wend its way onto the page and into the heart of the storytelling. So I have a wonderful post of 10 of our classical adaptations, top 10 T-Folk top 10 plays. The link to our blog post is in the description. You can go and you can read sample pages from all of these plays. You can click the links and you can get copies of all of these plays and see if there is a classical adaptation in this bunch that will work for you. So here is a perfect example. Number 1, Shuttersome, Tales of Poe. Here is a perfect example of an incredibly challenging quest. I went on a quest with Poe to try to figure out how to take his stories and his poems and turn them into plays. And when I started, I thought that it would be easy. I thought that it would be easy because the characters are so vivid and the scenarios are so incredibly it's visceral. Like Poe is like, ugh, there's like, you know, it's gory, and there's bloody and death and all this stuff. But what I learned is that a lot of those stories, they come to life in the mind, right? Poe is telling a story that you, the reader, visualize and make the world. And having things come alive in the mind is not the same thing as having them come to life on stage. And Shuttersome took a good 3 years before it actually came to the publication stage, because that's how long it took. It took many people reading it and many people putting it up until it got into a place that I was happy with. And now, so Shuttersome Tales of Poe is one of my most actually produced plays. I would say it's my most produced classical adaptation for sure. It's got so theatrical versions of The Telltale Heart, The Raven, The Mask of the Red Death, a comedy. Did you know that Poe wrote comedies? I did not know. There's a wonderful piece called Lionizing that is in there, and it has the way that it works is that Shuttersome has some variety of length. So you can do here are these stories, and you can put them together and make a competition length. Here are these stories, you can put them together and make a longer piece, because they're all sort of they all fit together like a puzzle piece, so that they can be in smaller pieces or in bigger pieces. And there's also, even if you want, there's a through line. There is the character of Poe's half-sister Rosalie, who is shocked, and we learn something about her that she perhaps does not know about herself. So that is our first classical adaptation on this list of 10. Check out the description where you can go to the blog post where you can hit the links and read sample pages from all these plays. Next are two wonderful Shakespeare parodies from Allison Williams, Hamlet and Beth. And these are two of our oldest plays. They have been with us for years, and they still have a wonderful universality to them. And they're both one act. So you compare them together because they make for a really great evening of theater. They work exceptionally well on their own. So Hamlet is the story of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, as if Hamlet was played by a girl. Isn't that what you want? You know, isn't that the thing about Shakespeare which can be maddening at times, is that the parts for girls, the main parts for girls, just aren't as exciting and interesting sometimes as the guy parts. There's no girl Hamlet. So it is a comedic version of Hamlet, tells the whole story of Hamlet in 30 minutes. It can be done with 5 actors playing all the parts. You could also be expanded into a larger cast, so that, you know, everybody gets a little bit of everything. Great fun. Embeth, same thing. It starts with the whole idea about how you can't say the name of the Scottish play on stage, and it is sort of this whole story as is in the original really led us. We are led by the 3 witches, who are a bit of a comedy trio in this. It's not King Duncan in this version. It's Queen Duncan, and she never dies. They keep trying to get rid of her, and she refuses to die. And that is a lot of fun. There are commercials by the murderers. They are just 2 great doorways, too. If you are like, look, you know, I'd love to do Shakespeare. I'd love to do classical material. My school, my students, they won't go for it. So get a door, right? So instead of saying, no, that's never going to happen, start looking for doorways to try and get them into it. And what I find wonderful about these 2 plays, and I'll also include Allison's Drop Dead Juliet in that, is that I have seen these plays done with audiences who are not familiar with the original works. And I have seen them connect, and I have seen them laugh. And I think that is the best doorway because it's not the stories that wrinkle people up about Shakespeare. It's this funky language that just seems to stop everyone in its tracks. And if you can just get them connected to the story first, then you've got a big step ahead. And speaking of Shakespeare, we are not done with Shakespeare, because our third on our list of 10, so we've had Shutterson, we've had Hamlet and Embeth, they're paired. We also have Will and Whimsy by Alan Haynel. And what Alan has done is he has looked at the sonnets. So instead of just, throwing the sonnets out there, he has taken each sonnet that he has there and he has written a modern scene to go with it. So you have the sonnet in its original language, and then you have a modern scene that just brings the original text to life. So you're looking at it. So if people are having a difficulty with the language, here's a scene that talks about what's going on in the sonnet, and then you can go right to the sonnet. And he wrote, I'm just going on the page here because I want to tell you how many sonnets Alan has done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there are 16 sonnets, which is a drop in the bucket of the 154 that Shakespeare wrote. But it's just a wonderful sampling of a different, we always talk about Shakespeare's plays, but, he has this body of work, this body of poems written in a very specific form, which is also a good thing to sort of introduce your students to. And what's so great about what Alan has here is that because these sonnets are, again, it's that jigsaw puzzle piece thing that we love to do here at Theater Folks so much, is that he's put them in a specific form, schedule. He's put them in a order. He's put them in a specific order, but you do not have to put them in the same order. You can change the order. You can remove some of them. You can do a handful of them. You can do them all. If there's one you don't like, take it out. It is very flexible, really great for flexible casting. It's meeting all the needs of classroom work and also classical adaptations. These ones at night, I tell you, man. All right. Okay, now we go down a different road. So we've had some Poe, classical. We've had some Shakespeare, classical. What about Lord of the Flies? Lord of the Flies by William Golding is a very, you know the story. We all studied the story. Serious book. And what we have got instead is a wonderful parody, another parody adaptation, and it is called Lord of the Pies by Clint Snyder. And so Lord of the Flies, Lord of the Pies, and the whole thing takes place in a pie shop, and a pie shop erupts into panic after one person, Franny, announces the arrival of the apocalypse. And a society is reconstructed, called Frannyland, in the pie shop. And she's going to take out anyone who stands in her way. So you've got, not only do you have, taking a look at an original, taking it in an incredibly different direction, really going in, taking at something that is quite serious, going somewhere over the top and absurd. Compare and contrast, guys. If you need something that is in your classroom where you want to take a look at an original work and then compare it and contrast it to something else, Lord of the Flies. I love this play. I think it's hilarious. I love the characters. I love the overtopness of it. Easy to stage, one set. And I love that because we always talk about, what are the big boys to adapt? Always Shakespeare, right? Poetry is always going to be up there. The novels that we have, the classical novels, Dickens, A Christmas Carol, right? Always up there. So I think it's really nice to have on our list. We have something, a little different flavor. So our number 5 is Drum Taps. So this is an adaptation of the Drum Taps poetry by Walt Whitman in his massive oeuvre, Leaves of Grass. Do you have classical adaptations that you always rely on, that have always worked for you? Make sure you put them in the comments so that other people can see and share and maybe go and have a look. Sometimes I know nobody has time to read, right? Nobody has time to figure things out sometimes for themselves. That's why I'm doing this little thing. This is my service. While I take a sip of tea. So, okay, so Drum Taps. So I adore these poems. The poems of Drum Taps, which just seems a little bizarre thing to say because of what they're written about, but they are one of the few sort of firsthand primary source, which I know is not exactly the right term, account of the Civil War. And to see Whitman right from the beginning of the war, where he is as excited and presents that excitement of everything shiny and everything new and everything going for a good cause, and him acting as a nurse as he did, and sitting by the bedside and seeing boys destroyed by war, and seeing places destroyed by war, and seeing this complete change of heart and change of position, and just really speaking out about what war is and represents and what war does, because he was there. And it is words and emotion and blood, and it's all in this poetic form. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take that poetic form and actually keep the poems intact. So this is not like, so Shuttersome, what I did for some of the, not the poems, but with the stories, that was a theatrical transformation where I took a story and I just made it a play. Here, I wanted to keep I thought that the integrity of the piece had to remain in the form. So that means I had to create a framework around the play, which was theatrical. It couldn't be people standing on stage reciting poems. It had to be life. And luckily, Walt Whitman identifies characters in his in Drum Taps. There's not soldier. There's the first time mother. There's doctors. There's people who are mentioned who are all in this world. And so I was able to use those characters and make them characters and identify, once I had the characters, who was going to say which lines because it fit their character. That took a long time because then it became not just about people saying lines of poetry, but characters saying lines that fit their personality depending on who they were within the context of the poem. Yes. So it's another piece that I'm really proud of, and I think that it really illustrates an experience, and it is a theatrical experience. It's not poetry; it's war. And there's two versions. There's a small cast version, and then there's a large cast version. And I think you should go check it out. You can go into the description and you can click on the link, and it'll take you to our blog post, which features all of these plays that I'm talking about, and also links so that you can go and you can read sample pages and read more, see pictures, and learn more about the plays. All right, I've lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is another pairing. We have a pairing. We have Alice, and we have Through the Looking Glass. So this is one of those ones where in Drum Taps, the text of the poem was kept. And this one, I'm looking at two books, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. And Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There, both by Lewis Carroll. And taking these two fantastical worlds, Wonderland, experiences, and turning them into theatrical pieces. And they make really nice theatrical companion pieces because they're two completely different Wonderland adventures that sort of dovetail one onto the other. So they're both one acts, and together they make a lovely full evening of theater. And they, both of them follow Alice's adventures down the rabbit hole. And what makes Alice, this is another wonderful experience of the mind, because Alice goes through so many things, right? She grows small, she grows tall, and all of that was a really interesting challenge to figure out how to do simply with the technology that anyone could do. So, like, for example, in Alice, there is the use of a screen and a projector to really help illuminate the growing and the growing and the shrinking. Through the Looking Glass, there is a lot of movement of actors, and that, like, for example, the Jabberwocky, the big Jabberwocky poem, the big Jabberwocky beast, is made by the whole entire cast. So it's something that is quite theatrical and uses movement and body and the things that we all have at our disposal as opposed to special effects. Okay. Next, the Canterbury Tales. The Canterbury Tales, based on the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. So this is just another one of those, like Shakespeare, where the language of the original text gets in the way. It is, if you take a look at the first paragraph of the Canterbury Tales, and you might need a nap. The thing, though, is that once you get past the language, these stories are phenomenal. They're phenomenal characters. They are wicked. They are wicked, and they have wonderful adventures, and it was just dying for a theatrical version. So this one I know this one's quite old of mine, and it has had many productions from all walks of theater, and it's just every performer gets a chance to shine. Again, you can do it with a small cast, large cast. There's 8 pilgrims, and you can use all 8 to tell the stories, or you can expand it and have like 30 characters telling the stories. I've seen it done where it's literally some nice costumes and a bare stage, so that's easy to do. And no narrators. Next. Now we got Greek. Now we have Greek, and we have a play called Pandora's Fire by Judith White. And this is a lovely play, because what Judith has done is she's done a combo. So we've got ancient Greek. So that means that there are some element standards, right? A chorus. A choral leader, choral, maybe the way that the characters speak is in choral form. Maybe they're following the unities, of time and place. And that's another time, if you look at the ancient Greek tragedies, that is another place where students get really caught up, because you can have choral moments, choral odes that go on for 4 pages, and there's a lot of standing and a lot of talking. There's no action. And what Judith has done is she has combined. So she has the chorus, she has the choral form, and she has some of the ancient choral type of dialogue, and then modern. So it is a modern connection to this story, to this ancient Greek myth of Pandora and Pandora's box. Everyone knows the story. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she is to blame for releasing all the ills of the world. But is that just the end of the story? What else more is there? And that is what I like, is that there is more to the characters in this version, and that is always a good thing. Okay, 2 more. Back to Shakespeare. So we have 2 last here, and they're both wonderful Shakespeare adaptations. Hamlet Zombie Killer of Denmark by Chris Stiles. Don't give the wrong author's name. And what I love about this is that Chris has taken Hamlet and zombies and made them work together. It makes so much sense that zombies would be in Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. It is not only that he has taken the time that in any new dialogue that he has put into the play, it's in iambic pentameter. So you have zombies in iambic pentameter. It makes sense. It is the same story with zombies. So it's not just, you know, hey, let's take a classical tale and then put some fighting in and put some zombies in because that is the now thing to do. This play actually works with zombies. It makes sense with zombies. We have ghosts. We have Claudius, who wants to turn Denmark into a zombified land. We have Hamlet, who's all struggled about the whole thing. It is just a gruesomely comic, wonderful adaptation. And you want to read a copy of this right now? Go to the description, click the link, come to the blog post, and then come and read the sample pages for Hamlet, Zombie Killer of Denmark. Okay, so the last one, and this one, I love them all. They're not in our catalog if we don't love them. Which, you know, might be foolish, but I want to be able to sit here, and if I'm going to talk for 15-20 minutes on a bunch of plays, the first thing I want to say about them is that if we've accepted them, is that I love them. I want to see them produced. I want to see pictures. I want to hear about everyone's experiences putting them on. So this last one, the tragic comedy of Julius Caesar by Dave Hammers. So this is a adaptation of Julius Caesar. It takes place in a modern school. In modern times, modern school, a drama club is going to put on Julius Caesar. And because they love that play, it's their final project. This is what they're going to do. Except that you have a lead actress who wants to change the play, wants to make it more about her, wants to take Rome and now make it Georgia, has to come up with a different way of killing Brutus, you know, because they can't have the knives, so they make him allergic to peanut butter. And just one of these wonderful comedies where things just keep piling up and still using the original story and then adding on these wonderful layers of high school and competition and confrontation and peanut allergies. Is there more? I don't think there's more. Okay, guys. There's a description. Go click on that description and you will be taken to a blog post that says Top 10 Theater Folk, Top 10 Plays, Classical Adaptations. Are you looking for a classical adaptation? You're looking for something with a little more meat. You're looking for something maybe a little more cross-curricular. You are looking for something that will work in the classroom. You are looking for something that maybe isn't Shakespeare. We've got those. You're looking for something that you have studied the one version of. Maybe you have studied Julius Caesar and you want something to compare and contrast it to. You are studying the sonnets, and Will and Whimsy would be the most perfect play to put up. You want to have a different version of ancient Greek because your students are totally rebelling against trying to read choral odes. Click the link, go to the blog post. You will see links to all of these plays where you can read sample pages. You can get these plays. You can be, what can you be? You can be the awesomest classical adaptation person ever. In the middle of that, I tried to come up with something different and it didn't work. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. There's only so much talking I can do. I love these plays. I I think that they are, as I said, adaptation is my jam. I love it. I'm so looking forward to writing, to working on the adaptation that I'm working on this year, Richard III. And I hope that you love these adaptations as much as I do. You have a different adaptation, classical adaptation that you have used, you love. Make sure you put it in the comments. Share with the world. All right, folks. Have an awesome night.